I was 12 when I learned something I'll never forget. Cats can sense what we can't. It happened 13 years ago, but I still think about it every time I pass a house with peeling paint or a basement window sealed with duct tape. Some places just give off a warning, and some animals never stop listening to it. My cat was a rescue, all bones and bright green eyes when Mom brought her home after Dad left, but I think she rescued me more than the other way around. I named her Panda. She wasn't scared of anything. When the neighbor's German shepherd charged at our fence, Panda leapt on top of the barbecue grill and hissed like she'd set the world on fire. She'd ride in the car with me, nap on my chest while I read, and paw open doors like she paid rent. But there was one place she refused to go: the basement. She didn't just dislike it, she feared it. Visibly, physically. If I so much as touched the knob, Panda would bolt from the room or crouch low and growl, ears flat, eyes locked on the shadows beyond that door, like they were staring back. We'd just moved into a new rental that spring, a colonial-style house on a dead-end street tucked between a boarded-up duplex and an overgrown lot filled with rusting bicycles, the kind of place that always looked like it was holding its breath. The porch leaned so badly it creaked even when no one stood on it, and the shutters flaked paint in thin strips that danced like leaves when the wind blew. The air around the house always seemed a degree colder than the rest of the block. Mom called it vintage. I called it creepy. Inside it was okay. Faded wallpaper, creaky floors, weirdly shaped rooms. But the basement, that was something else. It was massive. Cement floor, stone walls that always felt damp, a single dangling light bulb you had to pull with a chain to turn on. The bulb lit just enough space to remind you how much you couldn't see. And in the far corner, there was another door. Heavy wood, iron hinges, just a little shorter than it should be, like it had been built before people stood quite as tall. That was the old coal room, the realtor had explained, brushing past it with a chuckle. It stayed closed. Mom worked night shifts. That meant laundry and feeding Panda were my jobs. And for some reason, the laundry machines and Panda's food bowl were both in the basement. 2 reasons to go down there, and none to feel good about it. The first time I tried to carry Panda with me, she clawed my arm so bad I bled. She launched herself off my shoulder and didn't stop running until she'd wedged under the couch upstairs. I still have a scar near my wrist. After that, she wouldn't even approach the basement door. She'd sit halfway down the hall and just watch. Tail twitching, shoulders low, growling softly like something was down there growling back. The weird stuff started slow, like the house was testing me, like it wanted to see how much I'd ignore before I admitted something was off. I'd hear tapping now and then, soft, behind the walls, felt cold drafts that came out of nowhere. Once, I saw the pull chain swaying back and forth when the air was still as death. I told myself it was just the house settling. Then came the whisper. It was late. I was folding towels near the dryer. The room was quiet except for the hum of machines. And then, hello. I froze. Not like scared froze, like nerve-dead, body refusing to move kind of froze. It hadn't been loud. It came from the wall, or behind it. I couldn't tell. I dropped the towel and ran. I didn't even turn off the light. 2 stairs at a time, slammed the door, locked it. Panda was there, ears flat, eyes like saucers. Her back was arched so high she looked twice her size. I didn't tell Mom. She'd just say I was tired, that it was the heater or the water pipes, or my imagination playing games. But it wasn't. A few days later, I went down again. Panda hadn't touched her food. The bowl stayed full even when I shook it. I figured if I brought it down and refilled it fresh, maybe she'd eat. I was halfway through loading the washer when I saw it. The coal room door. It was open. Just a crack, a sliver, like someone inside wanted to peek out. That door had always been swollen shut. I tried opening it once and it groaned like a tree about to fall. But now it sat there, slightly ajar. "Mom?" I called, already knowing she wasn't home. No answer. Of course. Then came the sound. Upstairs. Panda. Yowling. Not just meowing. This was something different. A raw, screeching panic howl. I dropped the basket and sprinted upstairs. Panda was crouched on the hallway rug, tail puffed out like a duster. When she saw me, she darted behind the TV stand. That night, I asked Mom if she'd been in the coal room, in the basement. She gave me a blank look. Coal room? I didn't sleep much after that. The whispering got louder. Not every night, but often. Words, bits of sentences. My name, a hoarse laugh. Come here. The light flickered, the chain swayed. Once I found the laundry I'd folded tossed across the floor like someone had stomped through it. Another time, Panda's food bowl was upside down, water soaked into the cement. And then came the worst night. It was raining, heavy. Thunder rolled like distant drums. Mom was on another night shift. I took the basket, Panda's bowl, braced myself. The door creaked open. The stairs groaned. The coal room door was wide open, and in that opening, a shape. I couldn't tell you what it was, but it was tall, too tall. Still in that way nothing alive is still, just standing there, like it had always been there. I couldn't scream. I stepped back, one foot, then another. The light went out, not flickered, not dimmed, popped. The chain smacked me in the cheek. Glass hit the ground. Darkness swallowed the room. And behind me, footsteps. Not running, walking, deliberate. I stumbled, slipped on a towel, crawled up the stairs like I was being pulled backward. My shoulder hit the door. I shoved it closed and threw my weight against it. Silence. Then, one knock. Clean, slow, then nothing. Panda was there again. This time she jumped into my lap. We sat there in the hallway, both shaking. When Mom got home, I told her everything. She didn't roll her eyes, because the door was open again, and there were wet footprints, bare, human, leading up from the basement. They stopped at the hallway rug. Police came. Mom called them the moment she saw the footprints. They searched the house, attic to basement, but when it came to the coal room, even they hesitated, said it was clear, but neither of them stepped all the way in. No signs of entry, just footprints that led up and stopped cold. Found no one, nothing stolen. We moved within the month. Mom broke the lease, didn't argue, just packed. We never talked about it again. Panda lived to be 17. She never once went near another basement door. Not in that house, not in the next, not even at the vet's office. Now, whenever I pass a house with flaking paint and warped doors, I watch for animals. I look at where the cats sit. If a cat won't go into a room, you probably shouldn't either. I walked into those woods thinking my biggest problem was a broken marriage. By midnight, I was running for my life. Some people jog to clear their heads, some drink, some drive until the gas runs out. Me? I walk the dog. Shadow's a 90-pound black lab mix with lungs like a freight train, and the kind of loyalty people write songs and stories about. He doesn't judge, doesn't interrupt, doesn't ask if I've thought about counseling or whether I still love her. He just walks. Sometimes he disappears into the trees for a bit, then comes back like nothing happened, and every now and then he'll stop dead in the middle of the trail, ears high, staring into the dark like he sees something I can't. When that happens, I don't ask questions, I move along. That night, my wife and I had another fight. Not shouting, just that brittle, practiced silence where every word feels like a loaded gun and every look's a challenge. I told her I was taking Shadow out. Didn't mention I wouldn't be back for a while. We live in a quiet Maryland suburb, tree-lined streets, porch lights, retired couples who wave as you pass. During the day, it's practically a postcard. But once the sun dips low and the air cools, the neighborhood empties, and it gets quiet. Quiet enough to hear your own heartbeat, your own regrets, your own anger chewing a hole in your chest. Not every thought is worth listening to, but that night, they followed me like a pack of wolves. I let Shadow lead. He trotted ahead, his paws barely making a sound on the gravel path, sometimes ducking into the brush to chase scents only he could love. The trail cuts through a stretch of woods behind our neighborhood. No streetlights, just faint glimmers from backyard windows and the occasional flicker of a security light if you caught it just right through the trees. The air smelled like damp leaves, wet bark, and cold earth, the kind of night where sound carries wrong, too far, too sharp, or you catch yourself looking over your shoulder, not sure what you expect to see. I told myself it was just the dark messing with me, or maybe the fight still clinging to my skin. About 10 minutes in, Shadow froze, not beside me, 20 feet ahead, just past a bend. His whole body stiffened, tail low, ears sharp. Then came the sound. Footsteps. Soft, careful, too deliberate to be random. A man stepped out from the trees on the left side of the trail, hood up, hands in his pockets, just standing there. I stopped. "Hey," I called, keeping my voice light. "You all right, man?" No answer, no movement, just that heavy stillness. Then, gravel behind me, a sound you feel before you register it, the unmistakable crunch of someone stepping where no one should be. I turned, another figure. Same hoodie, face shadowed, pale skin catching a faint glimmer of light. They weren't out for a walk, and I wasn't supposed to walk out of this. "Wallet," the one behind me said, voice flat, like he said it 100 times. "Phone, now." I glanced between them. The first man's shoulders twitched, like he was ready to move. They hadn't seen Shadow, too focused on me. I knew better than to call him, didn't whistle, didn't breathe his name. He was out there, somewhere in the dark. I took a slow step back. "You don't want to do this," I said, more to myself than to them. Then, a blur, a streak of black fur exploded from the trees. Shadow hit the guy behind me like a sledgehammer, low and fast. Teeth clamped around his arm with a snarl that split the night open. The guy screamed, stumbled, tried to shake him off, his hoodie darkened with blood. The one in front panicked, flinched, took a step back. I didn't wait. "Shadow, go!" My voice was sharp, cutting through the trees. Like he'd been waiting for that cue all night, Shadow let go and lunged at the second guy. Didn't bite, just charged, a wild, furious beast. The man bolted down the trail like the earth itself was after him, and I ran. Didn't look back, didn't stop to see where the other one was. My legs pumped, lungs burning. The night twisted around me, tree branches clawing at my sleeves, gravel loose beneath my feet. Somewhere behind me, Shadow's paws hit the ground in perfect rhythm, his breathing fast but steady. I didn't stop until I saw a porch light ahead, 3 streets over. Didn't even know whose house it was. I hammered the door with my fist. A woman opened it, startled, eyes wide. "Call the cops," I gasped. "There's..." She took one look at me, saw Shadow's bloody muzzle, and nodded. The police came, took my statement, walked the trail. Nothing. No one. Not a trace. But 2 nights later, they picked up a guy trying to break into a car a few blocks away. Bite mark on his forearm. No ID. No story. I picked him out, matched a description for at least 3 recent muggings in the area. One woman hadn't been as lucky as me. She never saw her attacker. Never made it home. That night I told my wife everything. Sat on the edge of the bed, Shadow between us like a living peace offering. She didn't say much at first, just reached out, ran a hand over his head and whispered, "Good boy." Then she asked if I wanted to talk. Not about us, about what happened. It was the first honest conversation we'd had in weeks. We're not perfect now, not even close, but we talk. and I don't take that trail without a flashlight, a knife, and Shadow at my side. Free, silent, eyes always watching the dark. Because sometimes, surviving isn't about being the strongest man in the room. It's about walking with something wild, something loyal, something that waits in the shadows and knows exactly when to strike. And some nights, when the wind slips through the trees just right, I swear there's something else out there, bigger, quieter, watching both of us, waiting. A third presence. Once, a week later, Shadow stopped on that same trail, same spot, ears high, tail low. But there was no mugger this time, just a figure half hidden in the brush. Too tall, too thin, not moving, not breathing. I blinked and it was gone. Shadow stared into the trees, his muscles tense, a low growl rolling in his throat. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the dark. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was something older than both. But Shadow didn't move until I whispered, "Let's go." And we walked on. Because the dark is always there. And some things are always watching. I've always believed dogs know more than we give them credit for. Not in some mystical soul-seeing way, but in how they pick up on shifts in tone, tension in a room, the subtle tilt of a head or pause in a conversation. Our dog, Scout, was like that. A 4-year-old border collie with eyes too sharp for his own good and an intuition that made me uneasy sometimes. We live on a small farm in rural Nebraska. Just me, my wife Ellen, our 10-year-old daughter Mia, and Scout. I guess you could say we moved here to escape things. Bad decisions, city noise, old mistakes. But you can't outrun yourself no matter how far the nearest neighbor is. I've had trouble sleeping for years. The kind of insomnia that hits hardest when it's dead silent. The mind wanders to things it shouldn't. So most nights, after everyone's gone to bed, I grab a flashlight and walk the property. Check the chicken coop, make sure the barn doors are locked. Just something about seeing it all with my own eyes lets me rest easier. Scout always comes with me. Tonight felt different. It wasn't the weather, though the wind was sharp and the night hung thick and cold like wet wool. It wasn't the moonless sky either. It was Scout. He wouldn't leave the porch. Just sat there, staring past the fields toward the tree line to the west. The hair on his back bristled, his lips twitching like he was growling under his breath. "Come on, boy," I called softly. "Let's make our rounds." He hesitated, then fell in step behind me, tail low. The flashlight's beam cut narrow tunnels through the dark, catching on fence posts and bare branches. The rustle of the dry corn stalks sounded too much like footsteps in the wind. Halfway to the barn, I noticed the gate latch hanging open. I know I'd secured it earlier. My stomach tightened. Rationally, it could have been the wind. Or Mia, forgetting again. But deep down, you feel it when something isn't right. Scout's ears perked. He took 2 steps ahead, then froze, his gaze locked on something I couldn't see. A low guttural growl rumbled in his throat. I scanned the dark. The flashlight's circle landed on the edge of the cornfield. And there, a shape, a man, standing too still. His face hidden under a hood, one hand at his side, the other raised slightly, like he was mid-step, then decided not to move. I couldn't tell if he was looking at me. "Who's there?" My voice cracked. No answer. Scout bared his teeth, the sound of it sharp and alive in the silence. "Hey!" I called louder. The figure stepped back into the stalks and vanished. I should have run for the house. But some part of me, stupid, reckless, terrified, needed to know how bad it was. I told myself I'd just check the barn, make sure nothing was taken. Half the locks had been busted. Inside, the tractor lights were on. I didn't leave them like that. And it wasn't just one. Both headlights blazed, bathing the dusty air in sickly yellow. Scout darted in ahead, sniffing the ground.
He stopped by the far wall, nose to the dirt, then looked up at me with something close to a warning in his eyes. That's when I noticed the boot prints. Fresh, leading out the back. I wasn't alone. Then, a sharp, wet thud behind me. I spun, flashlight beam darting over stacked hay bales and rusted tools. Nothing. The sound came again, a slow, deliberate scrape against wood. Scout lunged toward the back of the barn, barking like I'd never heard before, a deep, frantic sound that made the skin on my arms crawl. Then came the footsteps, fast, heavy, running straight at me from the dark. I didn't see a face, just the blur of movement, a glint of something metallic raised high. I dropped the flashlight, grabbed the nearest tool, a rusted crowbar, and swung blind. I felt it connect, heard a grunt, and stumbled back, nearly tripping over Scout. Whoever it was bolted through the open back door. I grabbed the flashlight and Scout and ran for the house. I wasn't thinking, just survival, heart pounding so loud it drowned out the wind. Scout kept looking back, ears flat. When we reached the porch, Ellen flung the door open, her face pale. "What the hell's happening?" she whispered, pulling Mia close. "Inside, lock it," I gasped, shoving them in. Scout wouldn't come in. He planted himself at the steps, teeth bared, his body rigid. I tried calling him, but he refused. Then, in the distance, headlights. A truck, engine idling, parked near the tree line. And next to it, 3 figures. They weren't in any hurry. One of them raised a hand in a slow wave. Not friendly, not casual, like they were marking us. I raised the shotgun from behind the door frame, but before I could fire, the truck peeled away, tires spitting gravel, and disappeared down the road. Gone. But it didn't feel like over. Not by a long shot. We called the sheriff. 40 minutes later, he showed up, jaw tight, hand resting a little too close to his holster. He saw the blood, the footprints. Said it looked bad, but what chilled me wasn't what he found. It was the look in his eyes, like he'd seen this kind of thing before, and knew it wouldn't be the last time. The next night, and every night since, Scout plants himself at the porch steps, staring at the tree line long after the wind dies. And some nights, when it's too quiet, I swear his ears prick toward a sound only he can hear. I don't know if they'll come back, but Scout's sure of it. And me? I haven't slept since.